Good, well, it's actually afternoon, but it will be airing evening. So good evening, everyone. I am Opal Adamson. I'm here on behalf of the AAIC, Australian Anti-Ice Campaign, here to talk to you tonight with our show about Let's Talk About Ice. Before we start and before I introduce this lovely person in front of me, I just wanted to remind everyone about the 1-800 numbers that we have here at the Australian Anti-Ice Campaign, which is 1-800 No to Ice or 1-800 66 86423. That number again is 1-800 66 86423. If you or anyone that you know or love or whatever is experiencing any sorts of issues with ice, give us a call. We have people in every state to be able to be at hand to be able to help you through what you're going through. Even if it's just education or you want some information about it as well, we're happy in here to help. Now, today, I have a slightly different interview for you. This is something that I've actually wanted to do for a while. It's more of a passion project, really. My lovely guest, Daniel, is a little bit hesitant. It's actually taken a while and a lot for him to get here, but that's because it's actually regarding myself. One of the things that I actually wanted to do was I really want to talk to not just addicts, or I'm addict, but the loved ones that come with us. That actually support us. And in my case, it was someone that was most unlikely. So, Daniel, say hi.
Hi.
Okay, so Daniel, can you please explain our relationship and then we'll get into it?
Okay, so we've known each other for about 18 or 19 years.
Yeah.
We had a very quick relationship, I suppose. It was short and fiery until we ended up getting engaged. So we ended up getting engaged after about 5 months.
5 months. Yeah.
That was back in 2005. Yep, 2005. Not long after that, we ended up pregnant.
Engaged, pregnant, yep.
Yep, so we got engaged after 5 months, and then a few months after that, we were pregnant.
Yep.
And we have now got 2 children. Just after our daughter was born, about 12 and a bit years ago, we moved to Canberra for a few years from Adelaide. We're originally from Adelaide. And then while we were in Canberra, we hit a few roadblocks, and we didn't feel that we could sort of reconcile those roadblocks and decided to separate. So we were in Canberra with not a lot of people that we knew who weren't really in a position to support us very well. And so we had a split home and found ourselves in a position where we had to support each other still, despite not being together. And we made that work in Canberra for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then when we got back to Adelaide, after a few more roadblocks in 2016, we, I guess, sort of went our own ways a little bit for a few years because we had family and we had lots of friends. And then, unfortunately, when some personal life issues occurred for Opal, and it led her to the path of taking drugs. It was a fairly hectic year or two, which led her to end up being living on my couch for a while, and I suppose we'll get into that a little bit further on.
Yeah.
And after that, we had still some issues with drugs, I suppose.
Yeah.
Where Opal nearly ended up on the street after that.
Yeah.
Which would have been terrible for her and for everyone else in our lives. Thankfully, she didn't end up on the street. She found somewhere to live and was then in a couple of bad relationships, and we ended up back living together again. so that she could, well, she needed some support financially and
Emotionally,
emotionally,
physically, spiritually,
yeah,
kind of everything after addiction.
And we ended up, so we've ended up living together for the last 3 years. So we're classified as separated but living under one roof.
Yep.
While Opal has been getting through her addiction and recovering, and here we are now.
Yep.
I suppose, with Opal doing all the great things that she's doing, and
Okay. So I guess then we'd really describe our relationship as we had to be there for each other. But out of it, we've actually grown really close. You're my best friend. Sorry, you are my best friend. Yeah, you have been my greatest support. And I do recognise and understand that a lot of that support's come, as I've come through addiction purely because you were worried about the kids. I do get that, you wanted to support me and help me, especially when I cut all my bridges and bits and pieces. But at the same point in time, it wasn't because of me. It was because you were probably more worried about the kids.
Yeah. When it came down to it, and I had that decision. So, if you think about a lot of people who've got kids, but they're in a separated relationship, and someone goes off the rails, most people will do everything they can to take the kids away from that other person.
Yeah.
But when I sat down and thought about it, I knew that Opal wasn't a bad mother. She had hit some roadblocks which were damaging to her, but she just needed support to be able to get through it. The kids, I didn't want my kids to grow up without being around their mother. I didn't want them to be just with me, which we were very young when we had our kids, and I, still really feel like a bit of a child at times, and I didn't particularly want to be looking after the kids 100% of the time when I didn't really feel comfortable with it, and I wanted you to still be around them.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I guess can be a little bit different when it does come to my actual drug use, is that my kids were still my number one priority. I wasn't really in the scene per se, and my commitment was always to my kids. Even though I struggled with an addiction, I think I met all my requirements. I still attended I might have missed a few here and there, but the majority of it was I actually genuinely cared, and I'd still
Absolutely.
I'd still get out for sport days, and I'd still get out for the meetings and the bits and pieces, and we always were there for some of those times that because we always decided that we were going to be there together as a family unit despite being separated.
Yeah.
So I think I did that. I might not have been present. I'm physically present, but I wasn't perhaps mentally and emotionally and spiritually present. But I was definitely present, and that was what mattered the most to me. So, especially when you're coming out with that stuff and you want to get better, and I didn't know where I was going to turn or what I was going to do or how I was going to get help.
Yeah.
To actually have Dan on my side, when of all the people, he would be the least likely to have been on my side. He was the one that was there.
But this is one of the important things as well, because we had separated in Canberra and we had learned to support each other.
Yeah.
At that time, I feel like that was a really unique way in which we developed our relationship at that time.
Yeah.
We had to be friends. We had to still, be able to deal with one another.
Mm-hmm.
Where most people, if they separate, then they just go their own ways and they've got their friends and their family and they look after it.
Yeah.
That's how they live their own lives.
Yeah.
But we had to share picking up the kids from school still. We had to still work out how to pay rent and stuff, despite the fact that you were having trouble with your work, and I was having trouble with my time because I was working more often, and because we learned how to support each other then,
mm-hmm.
It was a natural thing that we were able to continue to support each other.
Yeah.
When difficult things were happening.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. So through all of that, can you remember the first time when I told you about my addiction? Like, what was going through your head? Like, what were you thinking?
What you actually told me, was that you were actually suffering from an illness at the time.
Yes, I was.
I'm not sure whether that's something we should mention
That's
beforehand.
all right. We'll just say that I was suffering from an illness. I was actually quite sick at the time.
You were quite sick at the time, and the medicine that you were on was making you extremely sleepy and making it very hard for you to get through the days. And you had, for better or worse, chosen to use drugs as your way of getting through the day. And you told me that you had it under control and that it was not something that I really needed to worry about. But more so, you were telling me that you were suffering from an illness and that you were hoping to get better.
Yeah,
that's correct. This is talking about you quite deeply, and I hope that it's okay that I'm talking about deeply.
Well, I asked you to be here, so yeah.
You also at that time mentioned that you were currently engaged to another man.
Yes, correct.
And you asked for my advice on how to tell him about these things, about your illness and your addiction.
Correct.
And I think I told you that you should just tell him because you can't hold it from him.
Yep.
Unfortunately, when you told him, he left you.
Yep.
Which that was when you ended up on my couch for a little while because
it was about 4 or 5 months later. Yeah.
Because the house that you were living in, he left you with that and made you try to pay for it, which you weren't able to do. And so you came and stayed on my couch for a while, and that was probably your worst time in my experience.
Yeah.
Because you did nearly get to a point where you were checking out physically as well as mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
And there was times where I was very concerned about your health and well-being.
Yeah. I think it was that combination of failed marriage. You move through a relationship that you think is rock solid and it's not. There was compounding factors. It's not like I took up my addiction first. I actually got sick first. And then the addiction kind of came. For me, it was that meth was a party drug that he had introduced me with his friends. Tried it a few times and
it's so ironic that he then dumped you because of it.
Yeah, but in saying that, there was reasons why I didn't confide in him in terms of my illness, because he had a previous partner before that had that illness and he couldn't cope with it. So that was why I withheld it. But in hindsight, of course, if we're in a relationship in which we actually have to hide things from people, it's really not the relationship.
You have to fail anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not a bad thing. It's where I'm supposed to be in life and where I'm at. But so I did. So I was pretty sick. I was, put it out there. I was going for radiation therapy and stuff. I had surgery. Wasn't doing well. Obviously, let the house go, and I was struggling. I couldn't get back into work in bits and pieces. Ended up landing on the couch, which is probably an all-time low for anyone really to be landing on their ex's couch, because I don't know what to do with myself.
But that was a large part of that support thing as well.
Yeah.
There was not really no other choice.
Yeah.
So you were worried about ending up on the street.
Yeah.
Your relationship with your family at that point in time was not good.
Yeah.
You were some of those relationships you've now mended, but some of them are still not good.
Yes, right.
So I was just saying that to paint a picture that you didn't have a choice of going to family.
Right.
And a lot of the friends that we had, because this is just after we've
moved back to
Adelaide from Canberra. So those relationships that she might have been able to lean on before we moved to Canberra.
When you come back
5 years later, those relationships have changed. You can't just say to someone, "Hey, can I stay on the couch?" And I don't know how long it's going to be for. And also,
and I'm sick.
I'm going through radiotherapy, and So I felt that at least being with your kids, which was still your priority, would help possibly to get you out of that funk. And really, I was worried about what you would be like if you were staying on someone's or couch surfing, perhaps. And whose couches you'd be surfing on, and how you would be when you came to see the kids, and would you rock up for your kids' things, and to your credit, you did when you had to and when you were able to.
So yeah, it's a bit of the backstory. Okay, so that was pretty much how I told you. Obviously, it was still a couple of years before I got clean. Obviously, we don't need to go into all the details in terms of relationships and things that happened around it. No, that's okay. I think what I really want to touch on is just, what is it? What does it take for someone that loves someone? Or not love is the right word, but at the same point in time, a different love. How do you care for someone, and how do you help them get better? Because that's what I want to touch on. Obviously, ours is a very unique story, but what are the things that you really needed to do to be able to help me?
This is part of the reason why I've been reluctant to be on this, because I don't know what the answer is to that. People have asked me before, like, why are you helping her?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you being so supportive? And look, to be honest, the only answer I can give is I am helping her because it's the right thing to do, and I want my kids to have a healthy mum, and that mother figure, rather than basically looking for a replacement, which I don't think that you could ever do. Well, I can't. No, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
don't change the subject.
Okay, so what are some of the things that would have gone through your mind in the sense of how did you prepare the kids for this? Like, what were you telling the kids? What were you how did that, because obviously it's a big thing. The mum moves back into dad's home, not mum's home anymore, living on a couch per se. How do you normalize that with kids? How do you deal with those relationships?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I'd thought of all these questions beforehand, so I had some answers for you. Looking back, when those things happened, I don't know. I fear that perhaps I wasn't overly complimentary of you at the time, but just said to them, look, we just got to support her with what she's going through. I think it made it a lot easier when you explain to them what's happening with the radiotherapy and stuff, because that was sort of partial excuse for having to sleep half a day and at times, and being out occasionally and doing your own thing.
Well, I have tried to not have it around the kids, so
Oh, of course, I understand that. But it was mainly just mum's going through a hard time, and we just got to support her as best we can.
What would you say to anyone that was actually thinking of helping and supporting someone that's actually trying to get clean?
Nobody chooses to become an addict. Opal didn't go out with the intention of becoming addicted to drugs. She didn't. She's not a bad person, and you can see the things that she's doing now are really fantastic things for other people who are addicted and are trying to get better, and for people who are trying to support those who are addicted. All you can do is keep trying, keep supporting, and try and get them into the right frame of mind. Keep them in places and positions where they feel loved and are trying to do the right thing. It's really hard, I know, because even recently we've got friends who have addictions, who have been close to rock bottom very recently, and who have they're not in the position of wanting to get better yet. They are still in that deep addiction stage, but giving them the chance to do better and continuing to support them. I guess I'm lucky that the person I supported was able to get through it and got through it in the end. And hopefully everyone has the ability to get through it in the end. I don't want to say negative things.
No, I think the thing is it takes a long time. It's not something that just happens. And although I wanted to get clean for a while, as you know, like you do your yo-yo, and obviously there's a lot inside of you that you actually have to heal yourself, like a lot of those traumas. And I think it is a beautiful journey. I know that I've been through a lot. I've put this guy through a lot. I've put our kids through a lot. But at the same point in time, the growth that we're all having, afterwards, after I've gotten to this point, and the work that I'm doing, and I'm so supportive of what they do now. Like I really do whatever I possibly can to be able to because they're still healing too, and done that this year as well, which has been really funny, apart from my hemorrhage. No, I'm really grateful and thankful. And honestly, if it wasn't for Daniel and his family, etc., I wouldn't be where I am today. I don't know if I'd still be here, but I, definitely wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Without that love and support, we really don't have any hope. And I think that's one thing that you really notice that I give to a lot of the people, whether it's clients or friends, that it's just giving that love and support because they don't have it. And there is such, I understand the social connotations within the stigma that's surrounded by it. But the problem is people need to see that it's just a stigma, and they actually need to step around it and actually look at it for what it's worth. Like we're drugging ourselves because we have a massive problem. And it's not that the drugs is the problem, it's that there's something wrong with us inside, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, and that we use that drug in order to be able to feel better and feel normal. It's like, safe little hug. It's the only thing that makes us feel good or feel worthy. But the problem is, after a time, that becomes very self-destructive, and it's not like that at all, obviously. But I wouldn't be where I'm at for sure without you guys. Is there anything else you could recommend to, like, what are the big things apart from giving love? Is there anything else you really needed to do for us? Well, for me, really.
Not really sure if you're angling for something or not, but I honestly I'm not sure whether there's anything else.
Just the love and the support.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, finances wouldn't have been good because that's just supporting your habit.
Yeah, you didn't really. You certainly didn't support
again,
the habit.
our relationship is quite unique. Like, when we moved back in together, and that was actually helping you financially because of the situation you were in at the time. And it stopped you from having to try to break a lease and that sort of stuff. So it was there was a financial support, but it was not. That's not something that everyone is going to find themselves in a position to do or be able to do.
So just to point out something just quickly. So I was probably in active addiction for about 4.5 years or so. After that separation, I ended up with another gentleman for a couple of years, of which that was just an absolute nightmare. Again,
he left the relationship. That's just
Oh, well, no, but so one of the things that was my concern was because we were living together, not Daniel and I, was because he was incarcerated, was that I couldn't afford to stay where I was on my own, and breaking that lease was an issue. But it was more of, if I don't get someone to come here and help me, I'm going to start looking at crime and doing the wrong thing. And I knew that straight up, which is why I actually asked for that help again, because I knew that I was going to be too proud and I probably wouldn't have left the place. But I knew that if I'd stayed there, that I would have ended up in very similar circumstances to my ex.
Yeah.
So that is why you came and you helped me back in 2020.
Yeah, that's right.
Which I'm very, very grateful for. It was also the year of COVID, so it was a difficult year.
It was. It was.
Yeah.
But you look back on some of these events and the times that we've had, and we've had difficult times. A lot of events have occurred for us since we've known each other, and people have asked us, like, how did you cope when you went through those things? And you look back and you think, well, how did I cope? And then you realise you just do.
Yeah.
You do. You get through things, and life changes, and you move on.
Yeah.
And I guess just know and believe that the people that you love who have addictions can and will get through it with support.
How am I now? What does my life look now compared to my addiction?
Your life. So Opal has always been a hectic person, and it's no different now. But you're putting all of your energy and time when you're working into your work. Just doing a lot of work with the AARC, and with helping people through NDIS, and providing a lot of addiction recovery and psychosocial support and that sort of stuff. She's on the phone constantly while she's working, in meetings all the time, business meetings and meetings with clients and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
But then outside of work, you're 100% on kids and the family and the home. It gets a little bit tedious because I hate gardening and we've got a very big garden. But and then she sleeps for 8-9 hours, and
Yes, that's right.
then it starts again, and that happens. That's you're healthy and happy and living a normal life, which is obviously impacted by what you've been through, but is also, I know for you, very fulfilling. And I know that now you are happier than you have probably ever been.
Yeah.
Because you're doing what you love, and your family is still around you and supporting you and helping you with those things.
What do you think would have happened to me if you hadn't helped?
To be honest, I think you'd be dead.
Yeah, I probably agree
Or
with
in
you.
jail.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Definitely. So although it took some time for me to get clean, I think one of the biggest things was that for me, I really had to be honest. And honest with you if I was or I wasn't, or where I was at and what I was doing, and which kind of sucked, being an adult and having to explain to someone where you are or where you're going or whatnot. But when obviously, because it was some time, I didn't get clean straight away. I didn't want to get clean straight away, obviously. But when could you start to see the change? How long do you think it took from when I decided that I'd had a problem?
I think that you really started to get better towards the end of 2020.
Yeah.
You did still yo-yo a little bit after that, as everyone does. So you started Matrix at the start of 2021.
Yeah, so it was in the March, April of 2021. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a significant event that occurred in February 2021.
Yeah.
Which was your turning point.
Yeah.
You really fought hard from that point. Your whole outlook changed.
Yeah.
It was instead of sort of being focused inward and focusing on you and focusing on where your next amount of money was going to come from to pay for some drugs, to no, this isn't right. I'm going to get better. I've got a problem and I'm going to get better.
Yeah. That did, it changed.
That was, in fact, probably even mid 2020,
Yeah.
possibly, because that was when you started reaching out for
Services,
things like Matrix
and help. Yeah, which
stuff
took
like that.
just over 6. I can't count that today. It's like over 7 months. It took me to get into a program.
Yeah.
Um,
Do people know what the Matrix program is?
Yeah, I mentioned it before. So, Matrix program is a 16-week intensive. I think we've got it in most places around Australia these days, but in South Australia, it's the major thing, rehabilitation for methamphetamines that has the highest success rate. It's 16 weeks intensive. You attend 3 times a week. There's random drug tests, a lot of stuff. We go for a lot of stuff, but it was definitely a journey, and definitely something that I'd recommend. A lot of the content I didn't overly enjoy or engage with, because a lot of it was quite basic per se, but just by turning up, you set that new habit of getting up in the morning and doing something. I've got to go. I've got to stay clean, which I think is really, really valid.
Yeah, the getting into a healthy routine is really important.
Yeah. So, how do you? I mean, how? Obviously, I'm healing. I've kind of done this whirlwind in the whole freaking family. You need healing. The kids need healing. How has that come about? Like, what have we done? What to be able to make sure that everyone is back on track?
Well, I guess a lot of it is normalizing normal life again.
Yep.
An addict's life is very, I guess, based around like the periods of time where they're on and off the drug.
Yep.
And there's this routine of like, I have drugs, I'm on drugs, I have run out of drugs. How do I get the next lot of drugs? Where do I get it from? And then there's this period of time where you are searching for more drugs, and then you get the more drugs, and then that's when you move on to the next step, which is being on drugs.
Yep.
And that's the addict's life, right?
Yep.
And the stuff that happens for the rest of life just sort of happens incidentally. Yep. And there's not a lot of control happening. There's not a lot of normalcy for what normal life is like.
Correct.
And then when you are healthy again, so we do like family trips. We go camping, or we went on a holiday just recently for 10 days and just did family things with the kids. So we still spend quite a bit of time together.
Outside of work and weekends.
Outside of work and weekends, and we just do normal things with the kids.
Yep.
Spend time with them.
Yep. I think that's been the most important thing, is making sure that they're okay and spending that time with them. Because as an addict, I've had to do a lot of healing, but it's also to be able to build that relationship with them, to have that communication so that they can do the healing again themselves, has been really, really big. And I think we've actually done it pretty well. They're pretty level-headed.
Pretty level-headed, yeah. One of the big things that happens when what happened for the kids, I suppose, when you were actively addicted, was that there was a lot of trust breakdown.
Yeah, definitely.
So while you did try to keep up with a lot of the things that you needed to do, there was also things that didn't happen.
Oh, absolutely. I wasn't
should've.
perfect. Yeah.
And because of that, there was a lot of trust breakdown, and their healing has been building that trust back up.
Yeah.
So that they can believe the things that they have asked for, or we've said that we'll do for them, or whatever. Does happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing. There's not a lot worse than having plans and then having to cancel them because or mum's passed out, or whatever, we can't find mum or something.
Yeah.
But that's over the last couple of years we've really got back to being able to do all of those things.
Yeah. No, we have. And yeah, I mean, we've made it the most conventional family per se that we could possibly be, being separated people and not together, which it's odd, and most people don't actually get it. But for us, because of what I did, basically, it's about repairing that, and I'm so grateful that Daniel has actually helped me in order to do that. Yeah. Well, if anyone was thinking about helping someone or taking someone in, or what would you say to them?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because if it was anyone other than you, I'm not sure I would be able to say I would take them in.
Yep.
I know that you're different.
Yep.
I know that you are really looking at helping people who don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
In the future, long term. But if you love someone enough, if you feel like you can make a difference, then do it. Be that support for them. They're going to be very difficult at times, and it's going to be very hard to keep supporting that person at times when they continually fail or yo-yo.
Not fail, it's just closer to success.
But if you can get them into that, if you can get them to that stage of like right now, we're currently going through this nicotine issue.
Yes,
and
my nicotine issue.
And you have the right language and you have the right mindset, but that it's an addiction that is allowed. It's a legal addiction, and so it's very hard for you to come to that mindset of I need to quit, because you can continue to do it. It's fine.
That's not even really it. It's more the
I know it's different to that, but it's about what I'm saying is like it can be easier to get someone to come off an illegal drug if they can come around to seeing the problems that can occur. Like I felt like when we were talking about you doing things that could be criminal, that's when it started to turn around a little bit, because you were able to like you don't want to end up in jail. You don't want to end up being you don't want to end up dead from an overdose or from someone else doing something stupid, because people on drugs do stupid things sometimes.
Well, you really have to hit rock bottom before you can make the change and the difference, unfortunately. It's not a drug that, because it is highly addictive, it's not, unless you hit rock bottom, you can't really get there. But it's just about help and support.
Once someone can get the right mindset on their addiction, I know that I've got a problem, I know that I want to get better, then you can start working them through those steps on how to deal with that addiction and get better.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's very helpful or not, but
that's right. And is there anything you would say to? Oh, okay. So when it comes to my whole addiction and everything, like how do you talk about these sorts of things with extended family and like
Well, to be honest, your story actually came out publicly because you did a newspaper article.
Yep.
And I needed to go and tell people about it, and I literally just told them straight.
Yep.
I said, Opal has been dealing with an addiction.
Yep.
She's on the improve. She's mending. She's getting better. She's breaking the addiction. But you need to know that she has had this problem.
Yep.
And you might have thought that you were able to hide it at times. But pretty much everyone that I said it to said I knew something was going on.
Yep.
Because addiction is very, it might be a private thing, but it's obvious to the world around you that something is not right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
I don't think so.
Don't think so?
Yeah.
How have you cared for yourself through this?
With great difficulty.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, there was times where I didn't want to continue to support you, and I started to listen to those people saying, "Why are you still supporting her?" But really, it just came down to what's most important to me right now, and that is the kids, and not wanting to be responsible for kids that grow up with social problems and difficulties because they've had to deal with addiction at a much earlier age than at all.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, statistically, if I had disappeared into drug world or jail, the rest of it, that would put them at an even greater risk of
Correct.
experiencing it themselves, which is why I feel this whole thing with what we've created for our kids and why we have become so close is so pertinent for all of us because and especially with the work that I'm doing now as well, to be able to show that addiction's definitely not the right way, and that you can actually heal, but at the same point in time that they need compassion for the people they are going to see in life that go through it. And I think we've instilled that in our kids, and I think that's probably one of the most important things that's going to come out of them because they can go, okay, well, they're not an awful person. It's just that they're suffering because they've got extreme trauma inside of them and that someone needs help and they're just human. And I think that they're actually doing that in their day-to-day lives as it is.
And to be perfectly honest, our kids have got some absolutely amazing traits, and compassion for both of them is one of them.
Yeah,
they're both amazing kids. So
yeah.
Sometimes good things can come out of bad things.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to say that in terms of how hard it's been, or some of the biggest obstacles that you've had?
I'm very lucky that I've got a very supportive family. And when you were going through your addiction, and I was supporting you, despite the fact that they didn't necessarily agree that I should be supporting you at times, they were still very supportive of the fact that I was. And I know that your family was also very, very grateful that you have had someone who could support you. Especially given the people who didn't support you in the past. That I guess a lot of people did fear that the worst might happen to you. Look, this comes down to that really difficult, unique situation that we've got. I really hope that the people out there who are watching this, who are the addicts, have got loved loved ones who will support you. I really hope that the people out there who are wondering whether they should support their loved ones who are addicts, I really hope that you can find a way to support them. And I guess find someone that you can talk to about it. Find someone who is able to listen without bias and can provide you with support as well, because you need to talk about it. You need the support as much as that person who is in your life who is addicted needs the support.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to say something. I hope it's okay with you.
So.
What I just want to say is that, any viewers that are actually watching this, if you do have any questions for Dan or for myself, I strongly ask you to ask. I've wanted to do this for a while, but when you get here, there's what do you say? I mean, it's just like my best friend, and I'm so lucky that I've got that support. But I know there's going to be a lot of other questions. That opens a lot of questions. I'd really like those questions to come through, and if it's okay with you, if some do, are you happy to take some of those questions?
I'll do my best. Yeah.
Yeah.
If the responses come from Opal, but we'll make it sound like it comes from. We'll say that it comes from me.
Yeah, I think
because it will be coming from me, just for Opal's account.
I think one, our relationship is so unique, but two, I'm not going to throw your stuff in there. It's your private Facebook, but one, our relationship is so unique, but I think there's a lot more in that whole. People are going to have questions for you, they just are, and I think it also. I really wanted to get, shed some spotlight on the people that actually help us, because I think that's really, really important, and I don't want to diminish or subtract from any other person's addiction story, but I think that the people that are actually behind us are what actually really makes us and gets us to where we are, and without them, we wouldn't actually be where we are. So
there's a lot of people who just don't have support. We've known people who just don't have any loved ones who are willing to support them, and they just keep going down the rabbit hole.
You just see the roundabout, and it's like they need that intervention and help from someone, but they just don't have it. So
not a lot of people get out of addiction on their own.
No. So that's why we need the help and support of people like this. So please, if you've got any questions, please pass them on. I'll wrap it up if that's okay. Yeah, and sure. You're happy to take questions and whatnot after. I'd just like to say once again, please message through to me, and I can get questions to Dan. Anything you'd like to ask, and I really want to put the spotlight on the people that actually help us. And obviously, also we'll be back to the ARC. So if anyone is experiencing or suffering from addiction, whether that's themselves personally or someone they know, whether it's even education, we have education components in which we come into schools and we talk to schools and even to workplaces and things. We do amazing things. We've also got the Walk Against Ice that's coming up in November as well. So we're fairly active, and it's a really important cause because the rate of addiction these days is actually really quite high. And unfortunately, they're just making the drug more and more addictive, and it's harder and harder to get off. And it's a spiral for the ones that are on, and they actually just need love and help and support. So if anyone does need that help, that number is 1-800 6686 423. That number is 1-800 6686 423. All right, so thank you. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you again soon.